Good evening, happy Wednesday, and welcome back to another episode of Elevated Dialogue here on the Uncle Junior Network. Tonight, we're talking about one of the biggest sources of stress and opportunity in a man's life: money, work, and career. Every young man wants success, but very few are taught how to define it, pursue it, or prepare for it. Tonight, we're sharing our experiences, mistakes, and lessons learned in hopes of helping the next generation make wiser decisions. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to tonight's episode, Money, Jobs, and Career Paths. What does this look like? Tonight, with me on the panel, I have a couple of new brothers, but before we do, I want to welcome everybody, ladies and gentlemen, Walt B., Aaron B., Sandon, and Dr. Thomas Rashad Easley. Before we get into anything, the first thing I want to do is I want to welcome y'all gentlemen to tonight's episode. I appreciate you for being here, and I just want to do a check-in. How are you gentlemen doing? Before we do anything else, just check in, let me know how you doing, good, bad, or indifferent, working through some things or whatever it is. How y'all doing today?
Life is good, man. Life is good, and I can't really complain. So, had a birthday last week, and um, every day above ground is a good day. So that's how I look at it.
There you go, and standing up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Greetings, y'all. Oh, go ahead. No. Go ahead, brother Aaron. You good?
yeah. No, say doing good. Busy, too busy. Missed my workout 2 days in a row just because too much work. I finished work and I don't know, more stressed out and probably got to work out and work the stress off. But whatever, I'm in a weird little cycle now. But yeah, be 48 on Saturday. Otherwise all's well. Yeah.
Jump in there. Okay. Hey, well, greetings to the two cool brothers. Glad to share July month with you. Glad to share the year 48 with you, though, bro, because I just turned 48 on the 4th of July. I'll put it like this. I'm doing as good as the T-shirt I'm wearing. And so it's good to see everybody. I'm not gonna hold it. I just say, look, I'm in a good place. There's a lot of stuff happened today that was positive, and I'm looking for. It's all in time with our subject, so I can kind of save it. But it was just, man, it was powerful things that happened today. So I'm in a good place, and I'm happy to be here with y'all tonight or this evening.
Word up.
Yeah, happy to be here with y'all. Personally, I'm up on the mend here. Was playing around with my kid a little too rough and slipped there, but things have been good other than that. Yeah, enjoy the show, the episodes that I've listened into, so I'm happy to be here and share the little wisdom that I might have.
Word, man. I definitely appreciate it. And with that business, Aaron, I'm gonna have you start off. You and Aaron, you guys, this is your first time over here. I think Sandon may have been on a long time ago, but I can't remember. But I know he's been in the chat. He's been a good supporter. Me and him workout buddies have been for quite a while. So me and him met at the gym, just like me and Dr. Easley met at the gym. So it's funny how you can meet some good people at the gym, and especially because, if you look at it just across the board, I ain't gonna, take a whole spin off, but, in order to have a long career or anything like that, your health and your fitness does play a part in it. So that's why I feel like that's why I think it's okay to say this, you know what I mean? Because there's not a lot of people, most Americans don't work out. Most Americans don't have a consistent plan of fitness or a routine that they do on a consistent basis. And with that being said, is that when you meet people like y'all and you can have conversations about the gym, you can text each other about it, you can go and work out or go for a walk and do different things like that. So I am very grateful for you brothers that I have you in my life, that we can bounce ideas. We worked out together. Me and Dr. Easley, we ran an 8K together a long time ago. Me and Sandy, we was in CrossFit together. We've done all types of challenges together. We've done 1,000 burpee challenge. We've done
500
Sparta races together. We've done we've done a whole bunch of stuff together, man. So me and Sandy been locked in, rocking and rolling for a long time. Which brings me, we need to get together like real soon because I'm off doing something. But again, I don't even know where I went. Yeah, Aaron, Aaron and Sandon. Aaron, real quick, man, take about 30 to 45 seconds to kind of introduce yourself to the chat, kind of let us know who you are, a little bit about your background or anything like that you want to share before we get started. You and then Sandon. If y'all want to find out about Walt or Dr. Easley, y'all can go back and watch one of the first 3 episodes, and you can find out more about those guys.
Yeah. So Aaron Borzotra, actually Uncle Junior's cousin. So, but me and him have had some deep conversations and some of the more recent family gatherings. And like I said, happy to be here. But I'm married, 37, have 2 beautiful boys. Had a bit of a unique background in that I've lived in Germany for half my life, half my adolescence at least, and had quite a interesting job history. Doing everything from cleaning out storm drains to working at grocery stores. Worked at one of the world's biggest gun auctions, and ultimately found my way into being a global supply chain analyst for a Fortune 500 company. So I think I have a wide array of different experiences, and I think it's ever more important to kind of impart some of those wisdoms and perspectives to the younger generation. I'm here for the cause.
Nice. You want me to go?
Yeah, man.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, so Sandon, like I said, 48 on Saturday. Married, four children, 21 through 14. From New York, been down here, North Carolina, I guess 13 years. Like Garfa said, met him, I think 2017 when we first started CrossFit, around that time. And love working out, exercising, staying fit. It's like a lifestyle. I have to work out, I said I skipped the last 2 days, but whatever. Like mentally, I feel like I have to work out though. Like I said, I'm feeling lazy because I haven't. That's the first thing I brought up. But yeah, a lot of on the career perspective, we'll get to that. I know a little bit, but I've been of a lot of different jobs along the way to where I am now. I've been IT for over 20 years now, but yeah, I think I have a stories to tell and share. So I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I kind of want to, Aaron and Sam, you guys kind of talked about it, kind of started it off, but I want to go a little bit more in detail if y'all want to, and I'll kind of start us off as far as kind of our little like where we are, like our background. So for like me, I started working at 15. My first job was at Hardee's. It was my dad's best friend's brother. He was the manager back in Roanoke, Virginia. So it was my first job, and I bounced around a couple of different places in the mall. But everything was for the most part fast food. And then I did 3 years. I went to the Army for 3 years, and I was a combat engineer. And then I was like, bro, I'm done. I said, I can't do this no more. So I was missing home. So I got out, moved to Charlotte, worked for Family Dollar at the distribution center for about 3 years. Also worked construction for a little bit, worked with Yellow Freight loading trucks, then went back into the military as an air traffic controller, retired in 2017, and then I've been a school counselor ever since. So for the last 9 years, I spent 7 years in elementary and the last 2 years in high school as a school counselor. So that's a little bit about my background. That's kind of sort of where my perspectives and stuff like that is going to come from. Yeah, whoever wants to go next, feel free to go.
I'll give my career background. My first ever job, worked at a pizza place, and this is back in New York on Long Island. I was there for a few weeks. And then I got my next job at and I left about it now. Looking back, the place is called Double R Sports. It was definitely like some mobster run gambling. That's probably a whole different story, but like legit, it was like a bunch of Italians in New York, and it was back in the '90s, and they had some illegal gambling ring they were running. And I didn't know I worked there when I was in high school, but yeah, different story. But so I was there for like a year, and then worked in retail for a little bit. I was going to college at the time. I got a job as a teller at a credit union. And from there, I stumbled upon IT, which is what I do now. This is back in 2000. And I remember like at the time, they posted a job in the break room. They were hiring like the first PC technician at the time. Again, this is back in 2000. And I was going to school. Well, I just finished school for criminal justice. And I got out and I was like, trying to figure out what to do with myself in the meantime. And I was like, oh, computers, that's up and coming. Maybe I'll try that. So I started going to school for computers that next semester after I just had my 2-year degree. So I started going for my 4-year degree in computers. They opened up another job for another computer job at the credit union, and then I switched over there. I was at that company 14 years until I left New York, and that's my IT career would started, and then many more jobs since then. So now I do like cybersecurity consulting for Ernst & Young. So I work with like large corporations, and we do security consulting for them. So, and then along the way, I left out too. When I started having kids back in 2005, my wife stopped working, so I was working my regular job. At the same time, I was working 4 jobs at once to pay the bills. So I had my regular 9 to 5. I was bartending weekends. I was teaching a karate class like 3 times a week. I had a fitness class Sunday morning. So either I was working or sleeping for like 4 or 5 years straight, man. That's what I did to get by. So yeah. And here I am. I made it out.
Word up.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, before you go, Walter, it looked like you was about to go. Want to welcome my other brother from another mother, ladies and gentlemen, Victor, Mr. Accountable Masculinity. Appreciate you being here, brother. We just went around the room. What we're doing right now, you've been here before. Everybody know they can go back and find out a little bit. But what we're doing right now, just to kind of catch you up, is just going around the whole, giving everybody's kind of a background that brought them to where they are today, far as career-wise, jobs, and different things like that. So once Walt go, then the floor is back open.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to welcome you to the show.
No, you're on mute, Victor. Nope. Still
Go ahead,
muted.
Walt.
All right, I'll go ahead while he's getting this thing together. No problem. So, well, when I first started my life, my first job was a prime tobacco with my grandfather and his people at the age of 12. And I lasted a good 5 hours before I looked at my grandfather and told him, take me home. I'm going to college. And he said, are you going today? I said, if I can go today, I will, but I'm going to college. So I knew hard labor was not in the cards for me. So when I got of actual working age, my first job, I was a busboy at a restaurant in my hometown, Henderson, called the Silo. And again, it's one of those jobs where it really made me think that I can't wait tables. I can't clean tables. I don't want to clean anything for a living. I need to do something that's going to be fulfilling for me. So after college, my first job was I was a cashier at a gas station, working third shift in one of the most dangerous towns in the state of North Carolina. And I did fine. I did perfectly. I promoted up to assistant manager, and I thought life was good for a 22-year-old kid, really still staying at home with mom, no big deal. My next job, I actually got a hookup from my aunt who got me a job working for a trucking company, Schneider National. And I was essentially a dispatcher. And I kind of went rose up the ranks there over the next 4 years to becoming a driver manager, and they actually transferred me up to Central Virginia around the Gordonsville area, just outside of Charlottesville, as a driver manager there, and worked that job for a couple of years before I missed home. Had to come back to North Carolina because Virginia is not North Carolina. So my next job was FedEx. I was an assistant manager with FedEx and moved back down to North Carolina in 2011 for that job. And lo and behold, 15 years later, I'm still with FedEx. But now I'm a senior manager with that company. And over these 15 years, I've seen the biggest changes that you can ever see in any type of logistics, retail, anything you can imagine. FedEx has grown so much, and we finally taken over market share from UPS over the last 6 months. And the lovely thing about it is where UPS are closing things down and doing massive layoffs, FedEx is growing. So proud to be with FedEx. I still see myself with FedEx for the next at least 27 years. And can't say anything bad about them right now, but beautiful company to work for.
I'm taking stock notes from inside.
Audio now?
Yeah, but you're low.
Okay. So, what about now?
Got better.
Okay. I'll adjust my mic as we go, but
Yeah,
you know,
I can hear you.
yeah. So I see the topic: money, jobs, career paths. What does it look like? Man, you got to test drive everything. You know what I'm saying? And you really just got to jump in and figure out what works and what doesn't. And you don't know what your boundaries are without trying anything, you know?
But real quick, hey Vic, before we get started there, I want to go around and tell us your background as far as where you come from, like as far as job wise, career wise, entrepreneurship, like when you started working, you know, helping your granddaddy make grills or whatever you start doing. I remember, you know, I don't know if it was what you did first, but there to like kind of where you are, just so the artists can get the background when we start digging into this conversation, where you're coming from.
Well, I think I was introduced into blue collar labor from the get go. I used to spend summers with my granddad. He made barbecue grills, and he had contracts with grocery stores to sell barbecue grills. So he'd take those big industrial drums, cut them down, you know, clean them out, get them ready to go, you know, like purge them with fire, and cut barbecue grills. Like, you know, like we go to a grocery store, you see those barbecue grills out front. He had contracts for those. And, you know, so I saw, you know, like hard work from the get go, and he did it right out of his backyard. Then I think after that, I started that's when I believe my entrepreneurial spirit kicked in, because I started cutting grass to make, you know what I'm saying, money for myself. I had very encouraging parents that said, hey, the money you make is for you. You don't have to use your money to take care of us. Then I had a job at a grocery store, you know, like anybody else back in the day, bagging groceries and pushing shopping carts. And then I went from that to a little bit of retail. I worked at Payless Shoes at one point. You know what I'm saying? In the mall, I had like 2 jobs. I worked at McDonald's and you know, all of the stuff that you would expect somebody at age, you know, between the ages of 16 and 19 to have. All of that took place before I joined the Army. And then my first gig in the Army was tactical data communication. I reclassed, became military intelligence. That professionalized me. So I had a good fusion between creating professionalized work that dealt with PSYOPs and strategic intel, both lethal and non-lethal. That kind of refined my spirit for, you know, blending hard work, hard blue collar work with office clerical type of work, you know, I guess you could say. and making sure that everything I did was defined with a purpose and an outcome. And then I think all of those things mixed together led to me becoming a mentor, a coach, an author of 3 books, content creation, leadership skills in the Army. And now I still do blue collar work because I actually work on wind turbines, and I change out major components and operate cranes. It's hard work, 14, 16-hour days, 6-figure income, and a lot of money to be made in a short period of time. And driving heavy equipment, operating heavy equipment. And, I believe that those are major components from work that translate into how to see a problem through from start to finish with both troubleshooting, creativity, learning how to solve problems on the fly. People can't just come give you a solution. You have to create one sometimes. And, the mission first attitude and training that I got from being in the military translates very well to everything else that I do, because there's always a harder way to do something, but that doesn't necessarily mean it gets you the outcome that you want. It can be a performance and look like you're doing something, but you go from working harder to working smarter and becoming more efficient. I think efficiency is the key, and finding a creative way to use all of your tangible experiences to solve a problem that would otherwise be, I don't know, maybe more tasking to someone else that may not have had the hard, get your hands dirty type of work,
Yeah. Who we got? Dr. Easley, you got to roll? You got to go?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I haven't gone yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. Let's see. So, a couple of my brothers share the same age, or about to share the same age. So I'm 48. So my first job, I was 14. I was always working with my grandparents in the garden. That's how I grew up, outside, getting food. We didn't call it farming. It's just, you hungry, boy, go out there and get some. And so I learned, early, like, if I'm going to eat, you got to learn how to grow your own food. So I'm thankful that my grandparents taught me that. But the first actual job where I worked for someone, I worked for the the first job I had. I ended up getting like an intern at a phone company. So like at 14, I was able to do like this summer job, and and learn how to just learn the ins and outs of a phone company. And then and I only did that for let's say 6 months. Program ended. The next big job I had was I worked at a grocery store. This doesn't exist anymore, but I forgot what it's called, Western Supermarket. Okay, and that store is in Birmingham. Now I worked there from 15
in the festival. So yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Unless you work at
what I'm talking about. That's wild, man. See, oh man, homeboy, it's good to see you, man. Oh my God. See, look at that. We got that connection. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And so I did that from 15 to 18. Oh.
Just do a quick overview so we can get into the topic. Just a quick overview of all the stuff.
Quick.
Yeah, of all your careers and professions that led you up here.
It can't be quick. So just know that I've been working since I was 14, and I'm now 48. I've had more than 7 jobs. I worked for my mom in the boutique. I've been a professor. I've been a dean. I worked on the crew in the Forest Service, and I'm still not telling you everything. And I don't like working for people. And I'd rather kick butt than kiss it. And I can share more with you as I get rushed through my responses.
No, man, your boy bit took 30 minutes. I just wanted an overview, just a quick, so everybody know where we coming from. That's it. We got plenty of time to get into everything. You, Aaron, you want to add more, or did you get it? Aaron, you good?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I can expand on my history there. So similar to y'all, I got my first job around 14, 15. I lived in Germany, most of my teenage years. So I worked at a local grocery store there. That was my first legit job. But my stepdad owned his own plumbing and sheet welding business. And so, I did random jobs, anything from chopping wood to, helping out his friends who had their own businesses, cleaning out storm drains, cleaning up the shop, organizing, pretty much being another grunt, another two hands. And, when I moved back after graduating school over there and moving back to the States, worked at Hy-Vee up here in the Midwest, smiling in every aisle. And I think that was one of the pivotal points in my career and kind of what I would define as professionalism. They made you dress up in a tie and come to work nice and clean looking, and really underscored customer service, and that ended up being kind of the baseline for my other career choices. From then on, as I was in college for business and supply chain management, I worked for a gun auction, cataloging items, mostly historical pieces, but they had the occasional 50 cal, cool toys like that. I worked at a call center for one of the bigger prescription benefit companies, insurance companies. From there, I went on to work as a bartender. That was fun during my college days. And then ended up interning at one of the hospitals doing more supply chain driven or background focused work. And after I graduated, I did a left turn and became a grain merchant and ended up working for ADM, one of the nation's largest food ingredient processors. Was out in the countryside in BFE, Illinois, buying corn and soybeans from various farmers, which was kind of like a reverse salesman. I would go knocking door to door, drive up on somebody's farm and try to gain their business rather than sell them something. I was trying to buy their commodities. And, it never felt right, but I'm hard headed and I drove it to the limit and ended up working out in Portland for a smaller grain company that was trading, boats to nations. So we sold a lot of wheat to Korea, Japan, and really kind of pushed the limit until I realized that, that rat race ain't for me. Kind of trading markets and just always following the news, betting on somebody's misfortune to make a couple more bucks. And went back to my roots, to supply chain, and been working the last 5 years as a global supply chain analyst for a Fortune 500 company, one of the largest national office furniture manufacturers, and been enjoying that. Kind of leaning on my analytical abilities and skills, and kind of at this venture at the point where feel like I'm a little too comfortable. So getting ready to spread my wings again and see what the next venture is, the next year or so.
Word up, man. It seems like there's a lot of different experiences. Entrepreneurship, we got authors, we got ITs, we got military, we got so many different, people that rather kick butt than to kiss it. All the different things, So, it's interesting when you get men together and you kind of, people start sharing what they do and you figure out, and sometimes you learn, it's like, I didn't even know that was even a thing, So definitely appreciate y'all for kind of sharing y'all background. Now let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do today, the first statement up is today is something for everybody, just a statement, and you guys can dig into it however you want to. Whether it was your first job, if you want to take it off on a different path, feel free to do so. Just remind, we're already 30 minutes in, and this is the first one. So I'm not, not necessarily my intent to try to get through all of the questions or anything. I just want to make sure that we have good conversation at the end of the day. So however that goes and however you can twist your conversation into, stuff that's going to, about money, jobs, and career path, because we've all changed and made adjustments along the way, from the time most of us was 14 to where we are right now and in our career paths and different things like that. So again, the first thing we got up, feel free to go edit, gentlemen, is this: the first job that taught me a valuable life lesson was. All yours.
Oh shoot, I'll get this one. It was the first job that I just mentioned when I worked at the phone company. So I was
That
kind of
was
like
the internship one.
that was the intern. And I was, and I was a rebel. When I was younger, I had long hair, like I had hair.
You old, bro. You old because you said
What's that?
you old because you said the phone company. They don't like.
You only have
That
phone
ain't
company
even,
no more,
that
right?
ain't even a thing anymore. Like, is that even a thing anymore though? Like, I know we go
Was
like
that phone
Verizon, you go to like the little shop, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
no. You're right
apologize for
because
cutting you off,
it's
man.
not-
I'm old too, but go ahead.
oh no, you could because like Bell South, I think that was a company.
Mhm.
Bell South ain't even around no more.
Mhm.
But one of the first lessons I learned was, like I said, I was a rebel, so I wanted to look different and be well. I ain't gonna say I wanted to look different. I was always treated like I was different. I was the fat guy in my class, so kind of picked on, talked about. So I tried to express myself. I didn't want to be not a bully, but I definitely know how to defend myself. But I wanted to express myself and how I dressed. So I was like the outcast. And I remember I had this corduroy monkey visor. And remember, I told you I had long hair. I had hair down to my chest. My beard was even down like longer than it is now. And I showed up at work one day, and I, had my visor on, and I forgot to take it off though. Because it was just so comfortable having my hair. And the manager, I still think I know her name was Sandra, I believe, and she pulled me in her office, and and she told me, she said, "I love your hat. I think it looks nice." And I was like, "Oh shoot!" And I forgot I had it on. I took it off. And she's like, "Oh, you forgot you had it on." I was like, "Yeah, I forgot I had it on." And then she was like, "I was going to tell you, about, just like, in environments like this, you want to watch how you dress too, like, because people, will talk, and they'll say that that's not professional, And I was like, "Okay, yes, ma'am." I said, "I appreciate her, like telling me that." And and so I never did it again. And so, I just always knew that you want to be presentable, you want to be appropriate. The lesson for me was I noticed that I had to look nice, but some of my other coworkers didn't even know how to freaking dress. And I'll be told that I need to look at how I look, and I saw people who didn't even know how to tuck their shirt in. But and that's a different conversation. We can have. Why I got to pay attention to what I'm wearing and other people didn't. But but I didn't say that to her, and I didn't argue that with her. And she was a Black woman too. I just said yes, ma'am, and took that. But then I just noticed. I looked around and I was like, I noticed that we people who look like me, we look a certain way, and I noticed people who didn't look another way. So so that another lesson I learned is all the rules apply to some people, and they don't, and sometimes they don't apply to others.
And sometimes you just got to dress the part, huh?
Yeah, or fake, or yeah. It seems like just some of my coworkers though, they definitely dressed a part of knowing their privilege and that they didn't have to. And me, on the other hand, was taught early that, oh yeah, I got to be mindful of that. I can't do what everybody else does.
Exactly. And for me, one of my first jobs taught me that I don't like working. And what I mean by that is I don't like doing the hard work. And so that's why I made a plan early on that I want to tell people what to do. And I want to delegate the hard work to people so I can sit back and reap some of the rewards. Now, I am one of those people who, when the time is needed, I'll roll my sleeves up and like, all right, let's get it. And I'm gonna be the best one at it. But at the same time, when I'm done with that, I want to be able to delegate the hardest work to people and be able to go back in, teach them how they could do it better, make sure that they learn from any mistakes that they have. And then at the end of the day, when they master whatever skill that is, they can move on to something else. And over my career, at least with FedEx, I promoted 5 people to manager. And that's because of my leadership style, my management style has given them the opportunity to not only learn the job and master the job, but be able to teach other people the ways that I've taught them.
Yeah, I want to piggyback on something you said earlier, Walt. In your intro, you mentioned that you did a lot of different dirty jobs, maybe, and taught you what you didn't want to do. And I think I had similar experience, had all sorts of different miscellaneous jobs, but also quickly learned, and fortunately so, that certain things I just wasn't the cutout for, or I just didn't care for. So I think that's for all those young listeners, get out there, be diverse in your experiences, and figure out, not only what you do want to do, but, check off some of those things that you definitely don't want to do. And that'll save you some time and energy.
My one of the first jobs that taught me a valuable lesson was McDonald's, right? And the lesson was you gotta have a plan, right? So I'm working at McDonald's. I remember I was working the drive-through. Two ladies came through, and they came through McDonald's, and I was picking with them, and we were playing, going back and forth. Everything seemed to be cool, whatever, like that. Didn't think it was no issue. Next thing you know, work is over and all this other stuff, and then I get a phone call later on, and they say that that I was fired, and I'm like, what did I get fired for? And they said someone called up there and said that you threw ketchup at them. I was like, I didn't throw no ketchup at them. And I was like, y'all not even going to listen to my side of it, anything? It was like, no, the decision already been made. So I didn't even throw the ketchup at the ladies. And that was the thing about it. And they took her word right off the rip, and I was fired over that. And I was like, dang, like, I don't have no control over nothing out here. You know what I mean? And I learned that you better have a plan. So when I got fired, I didn't have another job. So from then on, before I switched jobs or something like that, I made sure that I had a couple of dollars saved up. I made sure that I had another job before I quit the other job. And I made sure that when I quit that job, that I left on good terms in case I had to go back. And yeah, I'm just speaking from a job perspective. But again, the lesson that it taught me, the valuable lesson that it taught me was that, bro, you ain't in charge of nothing. At the end of the day, if somebody wants you out, they out. So you better have a backup. You better have a plan, and you better have a little bit of money or something saved up just in case. You better have it. What would they say? You better have that. You better have that thing in your wallet. You know that we had a little circle print in our wallet from back in the day, and a quarter for the phone. You know what I mean? Or $20 in case you need to catch the cab. So same thing like everything else. I learned I better have a plan or a backup, because if somebody decides that they don't want me at their organization anymore, they can push me out, and ain't nothing I can do about it. So that was the lesson I learned.
Expect the unexpected.
You think besides the backup plan, like in that situation, was there anything else that got you in that situation? Like, was it other guys at the job messing around? They're like, oh, or it was like something, or just two people that didn't like you, or like what was even the cause of it? Like, how they even go down? You don't even know. What any other lessons from that? It was just that, hey, like.
So mine was, I don't even know. I didn't know if anything that happened. Once they told me that I was fired, and I asked them if they wanted to hear my side of the story, they said no. I dropped it. So I don't know whatever was said or anything like that. Because my thing is, if you're gonna fire me off the rip and you didn't even hear my side of the story, I don't want to work for you anyway. So, but it wasn't anything like, I wasn't like, there was no negative or no bad blood between me and those two ladies. You know what I'm saying? So I don't even know if anybody actually called up there and said anything. You know what I mean?
Man, you know one of the coldest realities that I learned from that type of situation. I don't like working with women. I simply, like, and it's not because I don't like working with women. It's just there's a whole different type of competition that's going on that you don't have any acknowledge, that you don't have any knowledge with, because people that work together all the time form cliques. And even if you go in and do your job and do what you're supposed to do, it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? Like you can have your specific scope. Like what I learned was perform in the scope of my work, because you're going to deal with adversity no matter what. You need to know what you're responsible for. That way you can defend yourself, you know what I'm saying, and stay within the scope of your job. Because when you start doing things that's outside the scope, you create a requirement. And the minute that you don't do those things that's inside the scope of your work, they hold you accountable to the things that's inside the scope of your work. They don't care about the things that you did outside the scope of your work, even though it helped everything work out for them. But if you're neglecting your primary focus, that's what they grade you off of, and they use that to their advantage. Because the number one, I believe expense, the one that any business can shore up, like quickly, is manpower and personnel, because it costs a lot of money to employ people. Even if you show up and do what you're supposed to do, the first budget cut is always going to be personnel. So you never stop looking for a job, if you have a job. Now, if you have a career and you're stable within that, and you know what your limitations are above you and below you and parallel to you, then, you know what I'm saying, you got a better level of situational awareness about what you need to do and how important your scope of work is. Mind your business.
Mind your business. Anybody else want to stab at it, or y'all want to move on?
Yeah, I'll go. So mine was definitely wasn't a first job. Actually, it was a recent job, but I think it was probably the most impactful, and maybe multiple lessons learned. But what happened was I started working there and had one team of 4 people I was managing, and then after about 4 months, I got another team of 10 people. But we were doing, it was IT work, global company. Originally, they used to outsource all the IT work, and then they brought it in-house. And what they did was they promoted people that had been there for 10, 15, 20 years into these like super technical positions. And they weren't technical people, and it wasn't fair to them. But what they did was their way of solving it. So like now I was a project manager, and now I'm like a senior network engineer, basically what happened, right? But their way of solving it was to lay everyone off, essentially. So we had 10 people on the team that was reporting to me, and the legal way of doing it was they made them reapply for their jobs. We wrote job descriptions. They had to reapply for their jobs, knowing that they weren't going to rehire them because technically they weren't qualified for the positions they were in. So I was there a week, and then they say, "Hey, surprise, you're the new manager. You got to deliver the news." So we got on calls with myself and HR one at a time, so I can tell everyone what was happening. It was the most stressful thing I've ever dealt with in my life. Like, work, like on top of like just managing like the work itself, I got like a huge, the work itself, the workload, but then the people aspect of that going down. So it was a good learning experience having gone through it, but really learning how to connect with people, try and build the trust, to have I can't think of the word, but just the feeling of people, how to work with them, right? And then also the other flip side is like the companies don't care about you either way, honestly. Like it was pretty cold, like the way they did it. Like again, some guys have been there 20 years and they just got rid of them because of their own mistake, right? So it was such a crazy dynamic of things kind of going on there, but definitely one of the most like impactful things of my career. So yeah.
Yo, that's crazy. And
It's
that
funny
was
that both of our experiences
recent.
came through McDonald's, man.
Huh?
It's funny how both of our experiences came through McDonald's too.
Bro, McDonald's, bro.
Crazy. It taught me how to
Crazy.
multitask though. You never stop taking orders.
Yeah, that part right
Like
there.
I was a maintenance.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, like I was a maintenance man. I was supposed to be responsible for stuff outside and unloading the truck because them old ladies that worked there didn't want to do it.
Yep.
But-
Or couldn't do it.
Yeah, and then they got mad because I didn't want to take orders one day. I was like, hey, I'm the maintenance guy. I clean the playground. You know what I'm saying? And keep the parking lot straight. I didn't want to work inside.
That's one of the things you mentioned. Women. I ain't gonna go too deep into it, but that's one of the things my brother mentioned. You know, he works at a place and they have to lift stuff, and a lot of things have to lift is like 40 pounds. So it's like, you know, the women, they always asking him, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do this? But it's like it's kind of like in their job description to do it. But because they can't physically lift certain things, he gets tasked to do other things. So I just wanted to say that I'll put a pin in that right now. Maybe we'll come back around to it.
Yeah.
But and that's only because one of the things that I know I learned about was, you know, you got to go get that money. You know, I'm a high school counselor right now, and I hear dudes all the time. These young boys, like, man, I'm like, bro, what you going to, you trying to take this class? He's like, no, man, I'm trying to graduate early. I'm trying to go make this money. Well, what you doing, bro? I'm working at Cookout. And I'm like, oh, like Bojangles. And I'm just like, they like, yeah, bro, I make about $300 a week. And I'm just like, I got you, bro. I'm like, where you live? You still live with moms? And they like, yeah. So it's like, you know, when we talking about paychecks, you know, then we talk about, you know, as we getting older, we start having these conversations, start talking about our purpose. And, you know, some dudes like, well, my purpose is a little bit more important than this paycheck. And then you got people like, well, I got to have this paycheck and this security, McDonald's. I got to have this paycheck in order to be able to provide the lifestyle that I want, so I can have the happiness, so I can get the purpose. You know what I mean? So all of that purpose and all and happiness and all of that stuff is all wrapped up into one for a lot of people. So with that being said, here's the first statement of the night. A paycheck can support your life, but purpose gives your work meaning. Have at it, gentlemen. Rip it apart, tear it up, whatever you want to do to it.
I think everything's a stepping stone, and yeah, you got to have your life supported, and you have to transmute maybe the feeling of inadequacy with the paycheck that you earn, and make that align with what you're trying to accomplish. Kind of like if you got a job and there's another company that may have more benefits, may have more flexibility on time, or maybe more conducive to your work-life schedule. Like, you use what you got to move yourself into a better position and take advantage of things that you want, because you might have to take a gig that doesn't pay very well to gain the acumen, the experience, and the resume to set yourself apart from other competitive people in a job that you maybe you do want. And then along that journey, you acquire the skills and the knowledge of how that business runs, so you can be more professional, more efficient at your next task. And then if you're really passionate about it, and if your passion and your purpose are aligned, maybe you could do a freelance contractor version of the same thing. You know what I'm saying? You can go from being a W-2 employee to being a 1099 contractor. You know, there's a way to go about it. I've seen it plenty of times, like on some of my real estate flips, where a guy would be hired as a 1099 guy being paid directly for a job. Maybe he does all of the framework or the quarter round or whatever jobs he's skilled at inside the project. And then he turns that into his own gig where he's his own company. And if all he does is roofing and carpentry, you can hire him specifically for that. So if you want to build a house from the ground up, you need a good framework guy. And you watched him on multiple jobs get hired over and over again, and always have other jobs that he got to schedule you in. And you say, you know what, man, maybe you could turn that into a business. You know what I'm saying? I don't care if you're cutting grass. If you got a specific thing that you've mastered and become very efficient at, you can contract yourself out to do that one specific thing, you know what I'm saying, and be great at it. A great example of that in a franchise aspect is like Five Guys, the burger chain restaurant, right? Those guys don't make nothing but burgers. They don't try to experiment with steaks. They don't try to experiment with chicken tenders. They don't try to experiment with anything else, but they're very good at making burgers because they have a system that allows them, provide the staple meal. And if they're very successful at it, maybe they can venture out and do something else. But like, I think you got to become an expert at something, you know what I'm saying, in order to transmute those skills from a different experience into something else that pays you if you're passionate enough about it and if it's aligned with your purpose.
That's interesting.
think
I mean,
Vic-
I had a. Oh, go ahead, Sam.
no problem. Yeah. So like Vic hit it right at the end there when he talks about when he said passion. And I kind of look at purpose and passion in the sense of what is my purpose in life, or what's the purpose of getting a job or getting a paycheck, and how can I align that with my passion? So if I got a job and I'm doing something just for the paycheck, but I don't have any passion in it, I'm not going to stay at that job long. But if I got a career that is aligned with my passion and is giving me something that's meeting my practical needs and yet transforming that purpose into a mission, that's what I look at as in if I'm fulfilling my passion and with my purpose, that paycheck is going to come regardless. And that's going to make me happy. That's going to give me a better sense of being a man versus just trying to feel one piece of either a purpose or just a simple and not having any passion with it.
I'll go. All right. So as I'm looking at this, yeah, a paycheck can support your life, but purpose gives your work meaning. I like what y'all said so far. I did the military. The reason why I stayed in the military, it wasn't, I recently had a conversation with someone about this. It wasn't about duty to country. It wasn't about getting college money. It was something that I kind of fell into. And then later on, it kind of became my purpose. Not my purpose, but it was the military was a purpose. I was using them. I thought that was the best spot for me. Having a wife and 3 kids at the time, this is where I need to be because it's comfortable over here. Worst case scenario, I go to war, I don't come back. But at the same time, I was able to justify that mentally because I was like, well, I could be driving to work and the same thing happened. So I was able to justify mentally and be okay with going and deploying Iraq. Actually, my second deployment is where I met Vic at, so it served a purpose for me and a stepping stone, like someone else said, like Vic talked about maybe taking a lesser paying position to get where you want to be later on. Like I took, some would say, a lesser paying position being in the military for 20 years, but at the end of the day, it kind of paid off. I got 3 degrees paid for, and then those degrees now provide me with the job that I want, which is more along a line of my purpose, my original purpose, not a purpose, So I'm not necessarily doing anything that I'm super passionate about when it comes to my career. I never went down that road of passion. I kind of got into it a few years ago, talked to Vic about it, maybe some other people, Dr. Easley, but then just kind of found out that just, running a business was a way too much work, hard work for me. And 20 years of being comfortable in the military is kind of where I ended up landed at, so I do believe that there is a purpose, and there's a place for people who want to work, because most people, the majority of people have 9 to 5s. Most people are not entrepreneurs and make money on the side. So I do believe that for some people, that's where it's probably best for them. And then I do believe that for some people, it's best that they kick butt and not kiss butt. So and my hat goes out to them, because when I dip my little pinky toe in the water of entrepreneurship for a couple of years, bro, that water way too cold and too deep for me. So my hat goes off to all you brothers who live and have spent multiple years in that entrepreneur space. Hey, you gotta have some cojones to be entrepreneur. It's got to have some big ones, brother. Real big ones. Look, walking up. Yeah, that's me. That's me.
Go ahead, bro.
Yeah, man.
I got little Skittles over here, brother. I ain't got.
Bro, I had a lawn care service while I was in the Army, and I would cut like 4 yards a day.
You had a fourplex and everything, duplex.
I had a fourplex, a duplex, a single family home. I had like 11 doors on Airbnb, 2 condos in Austin. I was my own infrastructure. You know what I'm saying? I was handling the maintenance, and and still, even then, I didn't have enough. You had to decide at some point, do you want to scale to keep what you have, or at some point you really put it on the scale. What are you trading psychologically? Because you start looking at people like numbers and liabilities, and you got to be real with yourself. When you get tired you're going to get tired of people calling you at 2:00 in the morning trying to figure out how to turn the shower on. And they already been staying there at your place for 2 to 4 days. So like, you haven't bathed, So like, now I'm worried about how dirty the place actually is if your armpits are dirty. You know what I'm saying? So now you got to be a janitor. Now you got to be a plumber. Now you got to be so many other things, you know what I'm saying, that goes along with it. And you're not really, I don't know. I think you gain an experience on how to vet people. I think purpose is about acquiring knowledge about how to vet a situation. You know what I'm saying? Because most things are intangible. Is the risk worth the reward? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And, when you're dealing with people that don't care about what you're trying to create, and that's rightfully so. There's a big separation of empathy on that. You know what I'm saying? But you got to know how to recognize a bad deal from the get-go. And that's not a skill that you get without taking some licks.
You think for the military, it served a purpose, but was it like a fulfilling purpose? Did it fulfill you? Or like you said, right? It served a purpose. It was something you were doing. It made sense. But what did it do for you, though? Was it just a thing?
It didn't fulfill me, because and a lot of it probably had to do with my mindset when I was mindset. I was trying to make it to the next paycheck, trying to deal with being deployed and deal with, going through a divorce and, all of that stuff. I've been more fulfilled since I've been out of the military than when I was in. I've had moments of fulfillment. I've had moments of joy. I've had a lot of good things that happened in the military. I have a great life because of the military, but my fulfillment in life really came after it. Military didn't. I would say the military had a part in it, because I also grew up in the military too. But if you're looking for fulfillment, I didn't get that from the military.
What's interesting is Mine took a whole different take on the question or the statement. You know, I actually kind of gravitated toward what's outside of work. You know, for example, when I was trading grain, one of the senior traders, you know, he was in his 60s, maybe hitting 70, and he was making bank, you know, just making big trades, cashing in big bonuses. But he had been divorced 2, 3 times, you know, wasn't on good terms with his kids, and he had all this money and was going home to an empty condo, you know, and it was sitting side by side to a gentleman like that. Great guy, loved him. But, you know, for me, you know, I don't, I'm also not exactly passionate. I like what I do, but it doesn't fulfill me to a level where I feel like I'm living my best life, you know, that Venn diagram isn't, you know, fully overlapped. But for me, you know, knowing that I'm provided for my family and I'm able to spend time with my kids and watch them grow up, it really, you know, for me, the purpose is outside of work. And I think it's important to have, you know, that nest, you know, nice and lively instead of just focusing solely on your work and your career. And I think some people get distracted in this rat world, you know, the rat race, and you know, all these get rich quick schemes, you know, all this other stuff that's running around on the internet. And sometimes, you know, the most important things are closest to you. And so, you know, that would be my words of wisdom, is just, you know, you got to look, you know, side by side and around you and make sure that your foundation is there. So that when you do, you know, I'm not much of an entrepreneur. Hats off to you gentlemen that are, you know, but being able to come home to, you know, a warm home, I think that's probably the ultimate purpose.
Now, I got to echo that. I want to say thank you, Aaron, for that. Like that's, I feel like what you just said, like those are values, you know, that I have, and I really appreciate when you said purpose outside of work. Because one of the things that I noticed, like in a number of the jobs that I had, and I don't want to say this to also, I'm thankful for the compliments of those who, you know, support and, you know, bigging up, you know, those of us who are in the entrepreneurial, you know, venture. I'll admit, I ended up as an entrepreneur. It wasn't intentional. You know, it was like I had a job. I thought I was going to get another job. It didn't happen. I said, oh, shucks, I got to do what I got to do. You know, and then I started, you know, handling things. But what I will say, and then this goes to what Vic said about the skills that you learn. I learned discipline and time working. You see what I'm saying? It's like I learned, okay, I got to do this. It's like that's why no one has to tell me how to. And it's not a dig, Brother Sandy, because I feel you. Last week, I ain't work out. I said, I ain't doing this today. And I considered not doing it that was Thursday. I considered not doing it Friday. So I feel you, brother. You know, so I just want to say that I'm not talking, you know, there's no, you know, like no one has to make me get up and work out. You know what I'm saying? I get up and I do that. No one has to make me balance my checkbook. No one has to make me stop spending on the credit card. If you understand what I'm saying? It's like there's certain things that I have, and there's something else Vic has talked about, and you, Uncle Junior, and Walt, actually, you know, not just saying like they've talked about it on the last 3 weeks. Self-mastery. You know, how do you, you know, master yourself in all these situations? And going back to what Brother Aaron just said, you know, especially about finding joy, finding purpose outside of work. I noticed that a lot of people who feel depleted many times when they leave or when they left work, like when I was working with people, one of the things that they were doing is that they were giving everything to the job and weren't taking anything home. You know, so it's like, I'm gonna do my best. And this is what I kind of counsel people on now, you know, and it's gonna sound a little crazy like what I'm about to say. So please don't take it to a foul place, just to more of a kind of a purposeful place. I challenge people like this. I'm like, what you giving your workplace 100 for? They ain't giving you 100. You know, and then they go, what you mean they're not giving me 100? That's not your family. If you're broke and you need to borrow money, they're not gonna give it to you. What you giving them 100 for? If you get sick, they need a doctor's note. Real love, you don't got to prove nothing to me. Just get better. So that's one thing that I always tell people is you have to. It's like I kind of put a job or different things into certain perspective. And so I always notice that people who feel depleted when they leave work is because, and this is going to what you said, Brother Aaron, they're giving everything at work. It's like work becomes their network, work becomes their family, work becomes their focus, work becomes their, you know what I'm saying? It gives them purpose. I'm not saying it's wrong if it does, but it's like it gives them to the purpose so much that it's outside of them. So when they go home, they're tired and they depleted, and all they're giving their family is crumbs. And I'm like, you got to figure out how to protect some of that so you can take what you really need home. Because like you said, the real purpose is at home, or the real purpose is outside of work when you're building something for yourself. That's why I'm still messed up with everything Vic was. God dog it, man. Yeah, I'm always blown away when I learn more about his history, you know. And so I just wanted to say that. And then I appreciate you, Uncle Junior, for, you know, maybe that wasn't vulnerable for you, but that was, if I shared what you just shared, that would have been vulnerable for me to say it like that, you know, because it's so, you know, one, you know, I respect vets, you know, and veterans, excuse me, because vet could be a veterinarian. Veterans, you know, I respect, you know, like veterans, but it's like I rarely hear veterans talk like you and Vic talk. You know what I'm saying? It's like you talk about your experience, you appreciate what you got, but it's almost like y'all don't hold that over other people's heads. You understand what I'm saying? It's like, look, I know what I did, you know, I know what I gave, but I had another goal in mind or something else was going on. And I think that that's one of the things, that's why I love the statement, paycheck supports life. Because I think what happens to a lot of people is the paycheck becomes life. You see, and then they lose the purpose. So then it's like, I got to work for this check. Don't get me wrong. Got to pay bills, keep lights on, got to feed, you know, got to feed yourself or got to feed your family. But I do believe sometimes the job, you know, and here's the thing about that, a job and a contract, entrepreneurs and people work got something in common. Most entrepreneurs are doing contracts. People on the job are working on the contract. You know what I mean? So that's one thing I think that connects us. You know, we all are working for that next thing, you know, and making that. But the key, I love what you said, you know, Brother Aaron, about purpose being at home, because that's what I had to teach people. You got to find your network can't just be at work. That love, that family can't be at work. That got to be outside. Because that's when it's more fulfilling, you know, because that's really who you are. I don't have to fake when I'm at home with family. But, you know, it's like you said, bro, you know, I got to dress the part at work. But then as soon as work is over. So I just wanted to say that piece. And
and I wanted to echo you and Aaron real quick. I think that's something, you know, it seems like, and I could be totally wrong about this, but our generation, at least for me, you know, I didn't get whatever message Aaron got. So I know, you know, like I said, we family, me and his dad, we spent Christmas together one year in Kuwait. I think it was in 2005. You know what I'm saying? So I've spent more time with his father overseas because we both was in the military, retired, than in the States. You know, so I'm wondering, you know, how much of that his dad is very, very, very involved, very family oriented, always have been. Like I want to be like him when I grow up. But and I look at like Aaron and what he said, like he's the baby here. He's the youngest. He's 37. He already got the message of how important the family and stuff is. I didn't get that. You know, I got go out there, work hard, make sure the paycheck come home. You know, family get the crumbs, you know, kind of opposite of what you're saying. And go spend time with your family. But in the military, when you're trying to get promoted and you're trying to move ahead and you're trying to go to the next level, the people that staying at home with their family are the ones who ain't getting promoted. It's the people who work in the 14 to 16 hours. So when we're young, I don't know if I did the right thing or not. I like what Aaron is doing. I'm not saying that he's not pushing for those promotions and trying to get ahead, but I'm saying for me, it was like either or. There wasn't any balance. If you stay at home under your wife with the kids, you're not going to have time to study for the promotion boards, to work on your physical fitness, to work on your training, to go to the range so you can shoot better to get more promotion points. You don't have those times. So you neglect, and I use the word neglect, you neglect your family because you're trying to get promoted. But I'm trying to get promoted to provide for a better lifestyle for my family. So that's where a lot of dudes are at, and that's where a lot of us spend time. So based off of that, like, where do y'all, I don't know if this is adding to or what, but I don't know. I don't know where I want to go with that, but I just like the fact that Aaron got that lesson earlier. I like that lesson because I was on the grind the whole time, and, you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, but sometimes what is the alternative though, right? Like depending where you are, you do it because you have to, right? That's the grind you're stuck in because that situation and you're doing it. But yeah, I mean, I think looking back now, if you change things, if maybe I don't know. Like when I said before, like when my kids started being born, my wife stopped working. She was home with the kids, and I was working my regular job, 9 to 5. Actually, I mentioned too, I worked Home Depot nights. I worked till 8 to midnight, 4 days a week. Get up at 6 in the morning, go to work, and then I bartended weekends, and then in between that, I was like teaching karate. It was like literally like
Yeah, see?
I don't know. I mean, I say looking back now, it was all blur. I don't remember my kids back then. Like when they were young, like if I wasn't working, I was sleeping in between that, or it was just nuts, But like, yeah, kind of. But what's the alternative? I guess like to like I don't know.
Yeah, Aaron
Yeah.
seemed to find the alternative.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm I count myself very fortunate, but you said something that struck me is it's not necessarily neglect when you're in the service. Obviously my dad was in the military, grew up in a military family, but it's it's called service for a reason. But that service is to the nation and to the government, so it's kind of implied that your family is not front of mind or the focus of that activity. But I attribute kind of my perspective to just living the slow life. So my mom, she's Spanish, lives in Germany. I went to a German school, in the middle of nowhere in Germany and down south. And, that was also fortunate enough to live before the age of social media. Because I think a lot of today's problems are generated from that, but I seen that, or I seen in my parents or my stepdad and my mom, they exemplified what was enough, right? And that was always the thing, is like, you be satisfied with what you have, the people around you, count your blessings, as far as, like who is it? The Walt Vick, every day above ground is a good one, right? And it's just living that life and just truly appreciating, just what you do have and not always glancing over your shoulder of what other people have. So it may be unusual for somebody my age, but it's, I think that's what it surrounds itself on. Like, what is enough for you, right? And be honest with yourself too, right? Don't try to kid yourself and say something that's untrue. It doesn't speak your truth. If that gives you meaning, that status and flying high and being the big winner, the big dog in the market, then be that. But then be honest and also be fair, and give some of that time back to your family, right? Because you can't do it alone. Or if you do, you're gonna end up alone in the end. But I think that's kind of one of my mantras, is just understand what is enough for you, and that'll be can be your guiding light as far as where your values are and where you spend your energy.
Brother Aaron, there was everything you just said. My goodness, you need to drop the mic. It's something. I appreciate something that you said, because it made me think about something Coach said about me 2 weeks ago. Remember, the brothers who were on 2 weeks ago when we were talking about the lessons and how I learned something early. Then the question was, how did you learn it early? And then Coach was like, look at his family life, like how he grew up, like having mom and my dad, but I also grew up with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me. So I think that, like how you mentioned, you said your mom and your stepdad, how it's like you had that structure. I had my grandparents. So I got to watch elders who grew their own food. My grandfather, who was already retired, my grandma, who was an entrepreneur with 3 different businesses. She ran a daycare, she made food, and she fixed hair. So she never needed money from him, you see? So he took care of everything else, and she did the things that she liked. And my grandmother was a pianist. That's how I started making music. She taught me how to play the piano. My grandfather was a singer. So I watched them do the things that they enjoyed. I didn't, understand it all, you know what I mean? But I watched them do it. And so the one thing I knew is that I learned from them that I want to have a life where it's like I can be at home. It's like I don't need a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to live like I can't afford a couch. But I also recognize, like for me, I don't need to live above my means. I don't care about status. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care about politicians. I don't care about celebrities. All of that can go to a certain place as far as I'm concerned. because it doesn't matter to me. I don't need that to be secure. I don't need that to feel like I'm enough. But it's because I watched my grandparents, and I didn't know we were poor because we were rich with the things that actually mattered. You know what I'm saying? And then I watched my parents, and this was fascinating, having my grandparents, watching them. Then I watched my parents work themselves to the bone. Then I got to watch my father, who's dealing with so many sicknesses now. And there's no diss to you, Brother Sander, but my father was like you. You see, he was gone all the time. He was working all the time. He took care of all of us, right? But he didn't take care of himself. So then that taught me a lesson. Wait a minute, I don't want to have diabetes and cancer and heart disease. And you understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have all of that before I'm 60. You see, like looking like I'm 90 at 60. So I learned that watching him, like, okay, I don't want to do that, but I also don't want to be broke. So then that's when I learned the balance of live a certain way, save money. And then when you're with people who don't know how to manage money around them, then you get to see the stress that it causes them. So I'm like, well, I don't want that kind of stress. So, so I just learned, over time, I've always been more of an observer than a person who tells you what to do. I'm mostly like watching. I used to tell you when you ask me, man, like, how you look like that? Because I realized that I don't need to work like that. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not afraid to work because I've worked hard jobs. I worked for the Forest Service. The government wore me out. I worked on a Christmas tree farm. That wore me out. So I'm not afraid of hard work. It's funny when I shake even women's hands sometimes. They go, boy, your hand's so soft. And I'm like, it's not because I don't know how to work hard. It's probably because you don't know how to take care of your skin. Get out my face. I can't stand what I get at. You know what I'm saying?
Remember, like, so to kind of piggyback on what Dr. Easley said, I think we spoke a couple weeks ago. I believe I believe a man's life is meant to be hard. I don't think that there's an easy facet to life, because even if you work hard to create more availability for the family that you create, there are very hard lessons that you are ordained to teach if you have children. There are hard lessons that you are ordained to teach if you have a wife, because they need a level of reassurance from you that they can only get from you. So even when you're available, you have to make up for your absence in succinct lessons that you have to teach them about life, because they're depending on you and your leadership skills in terms of, like, what did you go out into the real world and learn that you can reduce to a one-liner that they could take with them and apply to everything that they do. You're supposed to go into the world, deal with complex situations, and simplify hard lessons that they and reduce it into a very, very digestible nugget of information that they can quickly reference and apply to unique situations that may only come up in Aaron's life. He's 37. He's dealing with problems that we probably have already seen, right? But the way that we learned how to navigate them came from our elders, good, bad, and indifferent. Whether we went out, knocked the skin off all of our elbows and knees to learn the lesson, we have to go back and tell them, hey, you're going to lose some skin. You're going to trade something to learn a lesson. So don't overcommit to stuff that doesn't sit right with you. Sleep on it before you make a decision. Don't ever get too excited. Don't stay too high. Don't wallow too long, because you're going to get another L. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't learn anything without taking a loss. And I think a man's life, when he's in a leadership capacity or not, is about not letting the last negative experience defeat him from trying to overcome the next experience. You know, that level of burden is not a burden. Actually, it's a gift. Because if you look at it as a burden, you'll quit. Because if everything that you do amounts to somebody getting over on you, you being dissatisfied, then what's the purpose of even trying anything new, right? And I think men are burdened with, not necessarily burdened. Disciplined men are purposed with trying new things that may be difficult, but necessary. Undisciplined men are burdened with the same situation, but having to choose to be defeated before they even start. Because both archetypes exist in the mindset. There's only two mindsets, either discipline or undisciplined. And the sooner that you accept that nothing goes the way that you plan, nothing goes according to script, because people give you the highlights of what they did as if it was easy. You ever watch those shows where they put a high-speed car together and it's 30 minutes and they show you they're bolting up the rear end? They you know what I'm saying? Like this Ford 9-inch, these big offsets, brake conversion systems. They don't talk about how long they was on the phone with the manufacturer trying to figure out an adapter or what they might need to cut down and customize to make whatever their custom build requires to fit. You know what I'm saying? Just to mock it up, to make it look right, to see if they can test and tune it. That's what life is, man. You're constantly in a phase where you have to adapt to nuance, not nuance you create, nuance that already exists that has yet to be discovered. You know what I'm saying? Nothing goes according to the way you want it to happen in your mind. You have to, the man that you have to be and become in order to align the work that you're doing with the purpose that you're doing it for has to be paramount in what you're doing. You'll quit every time. You won't complete anything. And I think completing something is most important, because after high school and after college, how many things do you actually complete that are of value that your family appreciates? You know, and that's the reality. Nothing's complete. So life is hard if you don't want to accept that. Life is only hard if you don't want to, if you have a negative relationship with reality based on the way that you feel. I believe I think when a man accepts that life is hard and it's supposed to be hard for a man, I think you discover your purpose then, because you figure out what's the best activity that's aligned with your resources and what you understand about the world and what you know how to do. And as long as you operate within the scope of your skill set, life becomes manageable. And the more manageable it becomes, the more efficient it becomes. And it's never easy. It just requires you to be on top of things, and you never get a chance to take a day off.
That's powerful.
Yeah, man. I'm looking at the time, man. We got about 6 minutes left. So we've been gnawing on that one statement for a long time.
It's powerful, bro.
Great.
Like that's real,
great.
but
It is.
I mean, it's real. You know?
It is, you know what I mean? Because, you know, a lot of times, you know, if you're just looking at, I mean, that whole balance and where to line up at, you know, every man who's listening or every man who's growing up, they have to figure out which side of the coin they want to be on. Do they want to be entrepreneurs? You know, do they want to go to the military? Do they want to take this route? Do they want to go to IT? Do they want a job where they can spend a lot of time at home? And it's funny, as we were talking, listening to Aaron and his father, and then Dr. Easley said it too. So my oldest son is 31. Similar situation to like Aaron. I mean, he did the military, but he has been, a lot of his jobs and stuff, he's in IT, but he works from home a lot. You know, he goes out and seeks out jobs to where he gets to spend more time at home with his 2 daughters. So it's something, you know, and I will say one thing is that's fortunate about the time that we have right now is that they're fortunate to have careers and jobs to where they can, you know, get into, and there's a lot of career fields to where you can work from home, or in where you can spend more time with your family and different things like that. So shout out to 2026, because I don't know too many jobs other than like nanny and CPA and stuff like that you could do from home, you know, back in the day, you know, and I really wasn't trying to do stuff like that. But one thing I do want to do, man, before we go, I got a closing question. I definitely want everybody to tackle this question. It don't really matter which hold on. Before we do that, I got Antoine. Don't even do it, brother.
Oh,
I'm
boy,
gonna bring. I'm bringing my man 50 grand up here, ladies and gentlemen. Antoine, the other artist, Christopher. He is only 1 hour and 24 minutes late to the show, but we are going to welcome him with open arms, Mr. Antoine. Now, I will say this, Antoine, two things that I've learned from Antoine. One is when you're in the zone, he's an artist, he paints. When you're in the zone, you're in the zone. And I get that. And do not mess with Antoine when his red light is on. Do not mess with his dishes. And hold on, I got one more. Last one. Antoine is on the West Coast, so Antoine is in California. So time zones are a little bit different. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Antoine. Antoine, get on here, say hi, and then I'm gonna give you an opportunity and everybody else to hit our last closing question. But you got 30 seconds to say hello to everybody and anything else you want to say before we hit this last question.
Hey, to everybody, no disrespect. I'm sorry. I apologize. Unprofessional of me. And I really wanted to be part of this. Trust me. Ask Garfield. Vic, love the new hairstyle. Oh my God, bro. You look younger. You look healthier. You look good, bro. I mean, you look so good. Now you're going to get women.
Don't tell my wife.
I ain't going to say that. But you look great with that. I meant to tell you last time. I didn't notice. I only noticed in your videos. And I was like, bro, so good, man. That's it.
Appreciate
it. Everybody else, Dr. Thomas, man, I saw your video. I'm so sorry. I commented. I don't know if you saw my comment, but anyways. And to the new guys, Sandon, nice to meet you, man. Hey, wait, I met you before. Nice to meet you again. And Walt B. and Aaron. I'm sorry, guys. No disrespect. Not going to happen again. Last time I was tiny. This time I was late. Fuck.
That's it. Got you, Antoine. So here's what we're gonna do, ladies and gentlemen. Gentlemen, we're gonna go around. I'm gonna give everybody an opportunity to answer this question. Bear with us, hang in there. If you're in the audience, I think all of these gentlemen are gonna have a really good comment and a response to this question right here. Also, gentlemen, before when the show goes off, don't close out yet. Hang out back screen real quick. Just got about one or two things to say, and then I'll bid y'all farewell. So don't click off yet. Yeah, here we go. Whoever wants to answer first, feel free to do so. So here's the closing question. If you could give every 20-year-old one financial, we didn't really dig into financials, but feel free to do so if you got some wisdom or something, or career lesson before they enter adulthood, what would it be? Now, at the same time, I don't want to marry you to this question. If you feel or you think that you got something that someone, whether they 20 or 30, can benefit from that's better than this question, then you have free reign with that one as well. I just want to make sure that whoever listens in and hears the sound of your voice, that they walk away from this video with something that you wanted to give them, whether it's this question or something else that you want to impart with them. So with that being said, gentlemen, the floor is yours. Have at it.
I want to jump in right away. Just because what Vic said in the last segment was really powerful and really moved me. I had a few things jotted down for this question, but as far as challenge and difficulty and hardship in life, that is ultimately what provides meaning in your life. And so I think, those things that make you nervous in your 20s, those opportunities that scare you, listen to yourself, listen to that feeling, because that's probably something that's going to mean something to you. No matter where you end up, just equip yourself, know that it's going to be a rocky road. And then once you overcome that, you're going to be that much more powerful and be able to walk through life with a lot more confidence. So thanks for those comments, Vic.
Appreciate it, man. And, I believe your generation at 37 years old can speak to the younger men and give more credence to that, because we're old. Like, I'm 47 years old. Like, everything under 40 is more digestible for people, I believe. You know, like, we're hardened, crusty, and, you know, unshakable from, like, we sound bitter to people that haven't been through the things that we've already overcome, you know. And so we deal with the outcomes. The outcomes are the only thing that matters, you know. And when you look at them, the reason you are where you are is because of your level of emotional discipline. If you adhere more to your emotions than you do to the logic and the outcomes, your reality is going to reflect that. Good, bad, and indifferent. Don't matter what you intend, because the judge don't care about sentencing you. You know what I'm saying? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Wait, what did you do? What was the outcome of what you chose? So life is going to judge you no matter what people say. So I appreciate you hearing the message.
I think what I would give every 20-year-old is a lesson on learning how to save your money. You got a job. We all started out very young when we're working, and I don't think I was into my mid to late 20s before somebody had a conversation with me about saving money and contributing to my company's 401k. They basically told me the company's going to match you at this percent. You need to, if you put in this amount, so make sure that you set your budget around putting in this money in for this 401k, because this is free money that the company's giving you. And I've been with FedEx for 15 years, and had I started my 401k balance earlier than that, to see how much it has grown in my 401k and my savings and things of that nature, if I had another 10 years in that, I'll be thinking not working till 70. I'll be thinking of working till 55 so I can retire a little early. So, but if there's one thing I can tell every 20-year-old, you get you a job, make sure you set money aside for your savings, because that's going to be something that you're going to need down the line.
I'll go. I got two. The first one is, and Aaron made me think of it, is joy fear. So I saw this on a blog like 15 years ago. So it says, having only joy is great, and having only fear sucks, but having both, that's life defining. So seek out those like joy fear moments. So like first time running a marathon, it's terrifying, but it's also amazing, right? Like that experience. Or like for me, moving from New York, North Carolina, picking up my family, right? 4 kids, my wife, moving, 12 hours away. That was like a joy fear moment. Those life defining moments. So seek those out. The second one is work hard so you don't have to work hard. Like my 4-job experience, that was, I was lazy. I got to that point because I wasn't working hard. So there's nothing beats hard work. So you have to put the work in, do it up front, do it early, and then you can relax later on. But there's no way around that. So that's it.
Yeah, your effort will never betray you, right?
Yep.
Let's see. So I got a couple. So I would definitely piggyback off what he said about the 401k. Yes, max it out. Get a job, just max it out. And the reason why you max it out is because when you know it's gone and it's automatically being done, you don't have to worry about it. Second thing is learn about compound interest. Start early. Forget the banks. The banks only pay you 1%. The market pays you whatever the market's doing, and the market's undefeated. So you should have enough in your bank. Oh my God, this was so helpful. You should have enough in your bank to pay your bills, preferably have 3 months emergency money, but the rest should go into the market because the market is the future. So is technology, so is AI. Forget about it. The world is becoming the have and have nots. The middle is going to be gone. The middle is going to be gone. Even if you look at the poverty rate, it's already risen. So that's another one. Second, another one I would say, don't marry the first woman you love. There's so much better pussy out there. Oh my goodness. Don't marry the first woman you love, because she ain't, believe me, she's not the last. And the more money you make, the better the options, the more hotter. And yes, dimes cost money. If you're with a certain financial demographic, chunky to the left. But if you got money, you can make money, and you have, the pickings are so much better. Believe me, there's going to come a time when they all look the same, but just one performs better than the other. Guaranteed. Another one I would say, is don't let your color hold you back. Don't let your color hold you back. There's the opportunities that are out there is for everyone. You just, if you don't have nothing, it's because you do nothing. And you use your own mind as an excuse that you didn't succeed. You are your own worst enemy. Everything is out there. Everything. And if somebody can come from a foreign country and make the money, and your ass has been living here, you're the lazy one. Sorry to tell you. Sorry to tell you. I don't care what anybody says, that victimhood mentality bullshit.
Hard work. Hard work, baby.
Hard work, man. And let your money work for you. Put your money to work for you, which is the stock market, that's where it is. The bank is just to hold what you want to spend and what you need to pay your bills with. The rest goes into the market and let it work for you. I wish somebody would have told me about this 30 years ago, because compound interest is unbelievable. And another thing, one last thing, is you never have too little to invest. You can invest up to $1, and the next thing you know, when you see that dollar grow, you have more of an interest to even put $2, $3. Next thing you know, you want your whole paycheck to go in there and just live by your own means. I'm telling you, that's my advice.
I would say, get your wants out the way. Like the thing that you know you believe that you want to do. Like for instance, like I ride motorcycles, right? You don't know if you're passionate about it. So life is an experiment up to a certain point of maturity in your life, right? The thing that you want to do, structure something realistic to obtain the means to acquire that want that you want. And then the other part of it is you need to invest more than you save, because that is the lesson that our parents' generation didn't adequately convey to my generation, because they were in a level of survival mode. Their fear, their education about finances was completely different, right? And that kind of echoes the point that Antoine brought about what the purpose of a bank should be, you know? So, for instance, you might, like when you're young, you're going to do a lot of spontaneous things, but you need to have a budget for spontaneous things. And you need to have a realistic budget. Like maybe say like $2,500 to $5,000 is allotted for spontaneous combustion. Okay. But your job is not the last job that you're going to have before you die. Just like the sentiment. I treat a job like a girlfriend, meaning like they could change. The minute that the attitude get funky, you go get you another one. Okay. And the money that you invest is your wife financially, you know? So you put the most effort into that. You make the sacrifices for that because you can see where your dollar actually counts. And by invest, I'm talking about anything that deals with compound interest that pays you back for paying it. So life insurance policies, cash value insurance policy that you could borrow against to become your own bank. I'm saying this specifically, become your own bank. And when you're young, that's the cheapest time that you could do it. And by the time that you are our crusty ages, you can borrow against the stuff that you've already put up while still accruing compound interest on the cash value of a life insurance policy. And once you understand that, you'll realize that the jobs you got doesn't suck the way you think it sucks. You just taking the money and you invested it in something greater that actually, you know what I'm saying, appreciate you. It's you appreciating yourself. Like I know like a lot of people have this lustful conversation about what money's supposed to do, the option it's supposed to bring to you, but that's a character driven thing also. So the money you make is just only going to amplify what character you already have. So take the character building things that come from your job and the earnings that go with it and invest that into your long-term version of who you are. And think of yourself like this, right? What advice, when you're by yourself, what advice would you like to hear from your father? And you have to think like that. Even your dad don't have that information. If your dad don't have that information, pay for a consultation from somebody that'll point you in the right direction, because your dad don't know everything, regardless of his level of experience. He can only talk to you based on his level of emotional maturity about his own life. You have to decide what you want your future to look like and how comfortable you want it to be and how many people you want to be responsible for, and if it all comes down to the worst case scenario, not even the worst case scenario, the best case scenario is that you can take care of yourself. The most optimal scenario is that you can take care of everybody that you've already obligated yourself to. So you need to make decisions according to that. I think men think better when they think like fathers and they think like husbands, whether they got children or a wife or not. Like, what's the best of a man?
Dr. Easy, you last one?
No, I don't think the last one, but I can go.
I think it's just you and Walt. Or Walt, you already been, right? Yeah, you and then me.
Okay, all right.
Again,
Okay,
you can have the question, or you can delete the question and add your own spin on it.
No, I appreciate you, brother. No, I'm keeping. Thank you for that. No, I keep it quick. Let's see. First lesson, I'll tell them nobody owes you anything. So you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate. And that's a true. It's just a true statement. No one owes you anything. You need to value what you do more than anybody, and then that way you determine the value of it. Okay, at some point. I'm so glad Antoine here, because this is one that I know all the men on here, sure, if they've seen this movie with Chris Rock, you'll know where I say this. You lose a lot of money chasing women, but you won't lose women chasing money. And that goes to what Vic was saying about the discipline. Like if you know how to be disciplined with your body and with your mind and with your actions, that will attract things that you want and things that you don't want. And so then I think that's when discipline comes in. And so something that I said in the song, I was like, there's always time for wisdom. Discipline gives you freedom. That's where your freedom comes from. Freedom is a mindset. That's why people could be in jail and still be free in a way. It's a mindset. And so if you're not disciplined, you won't have freedom in your life. If you have discipline and you do what all these brothers have said, you'll be able to have a life that, it's funny. It's like, even if you're connected to people who don't align in some ways, you'll still have a life that is different, that'll create space for you, and then to do it well, it creates space for them, or it creates space, like for other people. So I just want to say that, remember, no one owes you anything, and you'll do a lot better if you focus on your purpose, if you will, and versus trying to focus on, just having a good time and, and then also discipline gives you freedom.
Yeah, man, I so far appreciate everything that y'all have said. All of these have been great responses to this, along with everything you said. I would say I think I'm gonna hang out with the financial piece, and I'm gonna kind of incorporate some of the things that I've heard y'all gentlemen say, and I'm just going to talk about wealth knowledge or financial knowledge or financial literacy. So I believe that it's not a one size fits all. Just like we were talking about career path, we got entrepreneurs, we got people who work just for themselves. You have people who work on long-term jobs, people who switch careers, military, all these different jobs that men go into every single day. But what financial strategy works best for you long term? Is it best for you to put your money into real estate? Is it best for you to invest in your 401k? Well, what if I'm an entrepreneur and I don't have 401k? Well, what do I invest in then? So my purpose and my point is this: figure out and learn all things financial and knowledge, the financial piece of it, to figure out what is the best plan for you going forward. You may say, well, the best thing I need to do is where I'm at, I need to be investing in crypto. So maybe that's where you need to do. Maybe you investing in crypto in the stock market. Maybe you investing in crypto stock market, and like Vic said, life insurance, so that you can, and maybe at some point, again, become the bank and pull out and borrow against your own stuff, so becoming your own bank. So figuring out and learning about and having financial literacy, going to class, talking to other men, figuring out what they're doing, learning about wills, learning about trust, learning out the difference, learning about what your kids may or may not want when you die. You know what I mean? You can go and set up all of this stuff, and then they decide they don't want it, or they fighting over it because you haven't done the homework ahead of time. So not only about the money, because our jobs and career is going to dictate how much of this money or this tool we're going to have, which is going to determine how we're going to be able to live life now in our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, and until the end of time, until we roll up out of here. So learning all things when it comes to money, so you can come up with the best plan for you to get to point A to point B. And that's my little 2 cents when it comes to the financial piece. Gentlemen, we about to roll up out of here. I definitely appreciate everybody. I appreciate y'all for when I text y'all, sent y'all the information. Y'all are more than willing to come over here and support. I appreciate every syllable, word, thought that was said and thought today. I definitely appreciate it. I wish we had more time to talk about this, but we don't. But I tell y'all what, next week we're going to be talking about women, purpose for them in your life. So that's going to be a good one. So I am already looking forward to what thus said Antoine, because I know he's going to be on time for this show, because I'm going to call him. I'm going to set 15 alarms and make sure Antoine is here next week on time. All right. So with that being said, gentlemen, I love y'all from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate all y'all. And until the next show, I will see y'all around. Again, gentlemen, stay on. Don't click off yet. Meet me backstage in about 31 seconds. All right. Peace, gentlemen.